So, and why do kids low in vitamin D? Parents are putting on sunscreen, kids are staying indoors playing on computers, and the foods that kids are eating is preventing their body from activating the vitamin D properly. And those are kind of complex things, but they're all real. And the basic understanding is that kids don't have the right vitamin D level. So we have bruxism, we have snoring. If your child snores, they're extremely low in vitamin D. The ones that are less obvious are thumb sucking, finger sucking, and wetting the bed. These are all classic symptoms of a child who's extremely vitamin D deficient. Now, where this starts to go, there are certain children, I was one of those children, right from the time I was born, I suffered from terrible rashes. My parents didn't know what to do with me. I was a very fussy eater, constantly crying baby. And as these symptoms progress, you'll start to see dental decay and even pediatric gum disease. We see this quite a bit in populations with darker skin who need more time outside. So these are the pediatric symptoms. Now, it gets a little easier to figure this out because then we get swollen tonsils. If your child is the one who's getting constantly sick from colds and flus and allergies, allergic to cats and dust and grass, has asthma, or has been diagnosed ADD, attention deficit disorder, this is your child. This is what I call Pediatricians Blight. Now, the good news is that this is a syndrome that's so easy to reverse, and that's the primary reason why I got into this field and why you'll see cartoon characters behind me, is because my audience is really kids and the parents of kids. And I really want to share this syndrome that I call long face syndrome with everybody who has children or knows young children who are developing. This is the first place where your health starts to go wrong. And I would say that the syndrome that I'm going to describe follows the 80-20 rule. 80% of kids with these symptoms will be very, very quickly cured by simply raising their vitamin D level and making a few lifestyle modifications. 20% will need special and extra attention and care, and these are kids that have other genetic issues, but the syndrome I discuss is actually environmental. It was first identified by another Canadian dentist like me by the name of Weston A Price. And Dr. Price traveled around the world. This was the first investigation of what we call blue zones, going to places where people live a long time and saying, hey, what are these people doing that's keeping them so healthy? Well, Weston A Price in the 1920s and 30s traveled around and photographed different Aboriginal cultures to figure out why people's teeth were going bad. And in those days, prior to antibiotics, people's teeth were terrible. Everyone's getting dentures. And going to the dentist was not a good experience. It's still not great today, but in those days it was really bad. And so he said to himself, my patients have terrible teeth. I want to find populations that have great teeth and find out what they're doing. And ultimately, he discovered there were two substances that almost all really Aboriginal peoples would give to their younger people as a fertility measure when they were going to have kids. And it turns out that these two chemicals were vitamin D3 and vitamin K2. Now, they were from natural sources. They were found in butterfat, especially in the milk and meat of animals that eat green growing grass. The greener the grass, the higher the level of vitamin K2. And then the other component was cod liver oil, which is high in vitamin D. So both of these substances were critical for health and wellness and for fertility. And they gave these foods to people who were going to have kids, because right from conception and preconception, you want mom and dad to have evolutionary levels of vitamin D. If you want to pause and check what that means, anything over 40 nanograms per milliliter, okay? My ideal is higher, but that's the base minimum, and that's the amount that many, many people who live outside will have. I have gone up to a level of 100, so it's natural.